So Ebony and I talked about this interview and sort of worked together and developed some questions.
Yeah.
So, and how do you feel about where he's looking and how that's all?
It looks good.
Okay, great. So, the one thing that might be challenging is getting decent sound.
Okay.
So make sure that you're close enough to get decent sound with that.
Okay.
Get a little close to the table. Nothing else. Project.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, tell me a little bit, Max, about first of all, if you could just introduce yourself.
Yeah, sure. So I'm Max Crowley. I'm an NIH Research Fellow at the Center for Child and Family Policy, and I look at different ways we can invest in children to improve healthy development and positive outcomes across the lifespan.
Great. And so what was the meeting that just happened here?
So recently we held the second MAPS meeting of the Society for Prevention Research, which myself and Ken Dodge chair. And what MAPS stands for is Mapping Advances in Prevention Science. A funny acronym, but a serious topic for sure. So what we're looking at is how can we push the science forward around economic evaluation of preventative interventions. This is a really hot topic right now, both in policy sectors and health policy and social service policy, as well as when we think about on the ground, our practitioners, what they need to deliver both effective and efficient preventative health services.
Excellent. So tell me what you mean by that, moving the science forward on economic evaluation. Tell me what you mean.
So for a long time, psychological research, developmental research has had a really good understanding of how people grow, how people develop into healthy, functioning adults. But what we haven't understood is how individuals interact, or how those individuals, sorry.
Yeah, start that again. That was a great beginning.
Yeah. What we haven't really understood is how we can help individuals by investing in them, not only develop in a healthy manner, but also become active. I want to bring in so basically the interface between the psychological science and economics, and so what we're trying to move the field forward around is so we're bringing the two areas together. We want to understand not only how individuals develop, but also how that development impacts the economy, basically.
So it sounds as if you're saying you're trying to figure out how to figure out a dollar value for interventions that help promote healthier development.
Exactly. So
is that right?
exactly. So people often assume that effective prevention is more cost effective than treatment and treatment services, but we don't always have good data and good evidence that that's true. So what we're trying to do is build the science around how we invest in people and how we do it through prevention.
And specifically, you're trying to zero in on.
So in particular, we're trying to understand what are the costs of preventative interventions, what is the cost to set them up and sustain them in local communities, but also what is the economic benefit.
Perfect. Yeah, so you're trying to look at what is the economic payoff, the economic benefit in...
Exactly. So a lot of what we do is understanding how we can value the impacts of preventative interventions. Does a program that's delivered in kindergarten impact students' academic achievement as they move through the educational process, and then does it improve their outcomes in the labor market, for instance? Similarly, we think about how we can prevent major public health problems, for instance, substance abuse. Substance abuse begins early on. We know that there's risk factors that manifest as early as childhood, and there's biological predispositions that can lead to substance abuse and addiction. And so the work that we're doing is seeking to understand not only how we can prevent substance abuse, but what is the savings both to society and to the individual in monetary and dollar terms of making that investment.
Fantastic. And so how are you going about this? What is the goal of your group? So with this general goal in mind, what is your group specifically trying to accomplish?
Definitely. So the MAPS task force was charged by the Society for Prevention Research with identifying best practices and standards for conducting economic evaluation and prevention. So in prevention, this methodology has been somewhat fragmented in the past, which has resulted in economic estimates that are not comparable and don't have a lot of utility for policymaking. And so what we want to do is create consistency in the field while also acknowledging that there needs to be flexibility around doing high quality economic evaluations, and in doing so we want to better inform policy and practice.
Terrific. So who's in your group?
Definitely. So we've been very fortunate to have to bring together a very diverse group of leading experts in the area of economic evaluation, developmental theory, prevention science, policy analysis.
I'm going to get you to come and get in with that because just
Yep.
repeat that.
Yeah. So we've been very fortunate to have an excellent group of leading experts in economic evaluation, prevention science, developmental research, policy analysis. Some individuals include Steve Barnett, Ron Haskins, Ken Dodge here at the center, who's the co-chair of this group, with myself, Phaedra Corso at UGA, Lynn Carley at the Rand Institute, Ron Haskins at the Brookings Institute.
Terrific.
Sorry.
And so what's your next deadline and your next goal? You're trying to develop some standards. Yep.
So the MAPS group not only is seeking to identify best practices for economic evaluation and prevention, but we've also been. So the MAPS task force is not only seeking to build. I'm about to talk about the Part 13. So the MAPS task force isn't only seeking to identify best practices for conducting economic evaluations of prevention programs, but we also are seeking to build research capacity to conduct these analyses themselves. So not only does the field lack standardization to create consistent estimates, there is a lack of researchers coming out of who understand both psychological and developmental science, as well as the economics and public financing of preventative interventions. So we've been very fortunate to recently receive a network development grant from the National Institute of Drug Abuse to form a transdisciplinary research network studying this topic. In particular, what it will do is bring together economists, policy researchers, prevention scientists, and developmental researchers to create interdisciplinary teams to study and conduct empirical research on different key areas of economic science. Economic research. I might need to go back through that. But, and so...
So you're going to be sponsoring some research projects.
Exactly. So in particular, we'll be holding in December our third meeting of the MAPS Task Force in conjunction with the first meeting of this new research network. And that will be held in DC, and will be including not only the members of the task force who provide a leadership role in these in this network, but also we'll be bringing in a larger group of researchers. So I don't know how you want me to tighten that up.
Okay, so the network, are these projects that you all are, that your group is funding, or?
Sorry, I realized I shouldn't have moved.
Right. You might want to get a little bit different, like a more close in, just for variety.
Okay.
Slightly different.
Okay. I can zoom in a bit.
Yeah.
I don't know. Let me see.
Really uncomfortable position. So the network grant is funding. It's funding the creation of this group. So with the goal of. So it's not funding specific projects yet. It's funding the development of the group, the development of the research capacity, so that these interdisciplinary teams then can apply for additional funding, but also carry out this work. So I think we might want to talk about it more in the building of new collaborations for the building of new collaborations for So this transdisciplinary research network will build the new collaborations that are essential for creating this new science of investing in children, which I think is essential as we move forward, both in terms of having research capacity, but moving beyond traditional academic and disciplinary boundaries that have limited us doing high-quality psychological and developmental research of how we prevent public health problems, while also understanding the economic impact and how we can create policies that can effectively and efficiently improve our society.
Why is this important?
So there's a number of reasons why this is really, you think about like what angle I want to come from this.
Big picture. So why is this work important?
This work is particularly important because while developmental and prevention researchers have identified... This work is particularly important because while prevention researchers have developed high-quality, evidence-based programs, many of these programs continue to sit on the shelf. And that's because we really don't know what resources are essential to not only deliver these programs, but take them to scale. And if we want to have a true public health impact as intervention and prevention researchers, then what we need to understand is how do we embed these programs in the daily lives of people? How do we support families and support children? And how do we do it at scale? Understanding the economics of prevention allows us to do that.
Cool. So it's that's interesting. So it's not just about sort of proving the case as a payoff. It's also about what are the hard costs of delivery. And,
So
right. Both.
So exactly. So government has limited resources. Those resources, of course, come from taxpayers, and we have an obligation to spend those as effectively and efficiently as possible. This work allows us to answer those crucial questions and allows for our representatives to speak to their decisions to make investments and be accountable to taxpayers in particular. For instance, if a legislator decides they want to invest in a certain group of evidence-based preventive interventions, they can then speak to the value that provides society, and they can speak to where taxpayer dollars are going. Is that?
They can speak to.
Yeah. So
you're trying to.
There's an element of accountability here, right? So the idea being that if we understand the costs and the benefits of preventive interventions, we can make more rational decisions about how we spend money, spend tax dollars. So.
Perfect. Excellent.
Oh, you think that?